Hello and welcome. I'm Lindsay Crane, and these are my retro craft dreams. I love me an 80s sweater, and it is high time I start making some. I've been going through my knitting patterns, cataloging them, and trying to figure out which ones I want to make. I have more sweaters that I want to make than I could possibly make in my lifetime, and where do I even begin? Now, I also have a collection of vintage yarn. Part of what's taken me so long to get to making these sweaters is matching up pattern and yarn, because I want to find patterns for the yarn that I have, patterns that can do that yarn justice, and I also have patterns I want to make that I just don't have the yarn for. There is also the fact that I am still pretty new at following patterns. I learned to knit a very long time ago, but I didn't do it very often, and I only ever knit rectangles until just a few years ago. So I'm still really new at following patterns and paying attention to them, so I do need something simple. Out of all of the patterns and yarn in my stash, there is one combo that is actually made for each other. This is a leaflet from Unger, and it is for their instant sweaters. This is the 4-ball Condo sweater. So it does seem like a rather simple pattern. It involves a lot of drop stitches, but should work up really quickly. And in fact, the instant sweater thing kind of implies that. It calls for 4 balls of their fluffy yarn, of which I have 5 balls. And it's a really beautiful color. This is a 100% acrylic mohair look yarn in a worsted weight. It has this fuzzy halo of synthetic fibers. It is very synthetic in feel, but it is also very squishy, and it was imported from France. I have 5 balls, and this says it's only supposed to need 4. 5 balls are what's required for the larger size. However, I will say this yarn, here's one, is not in the best condition. There are some spots on this yarn. I don't know what they are. I'm hoping that the spots are relegated to the exterior, and in that way that I will be able to just exclude those pieces of yarn from my knitting. And to that end, if I have to cut out a lot of yarn and somehow the 5 balls aren't enough, I did happen upon this little bit of Unger Fluffy in gray at the thrift store several months ago. So I can supplement with these, probably on the ribbing or something, should I need it. I'm going to start my second sweater and my first fully 80s sweater with the yarn that the pattern calls for. Vintage yarn, vintage pattern, let's go. This is not a center pull skein. I did actually wonder. Finally found the end of the yarn. It should probably work after that, but yeah, thought that was kind of funny. Okay, I apologize for the bad lighting. Here is my gauge swatch / practice piece, and I am ready to rip it out and get started. It gave the gauge in stockinette stitch at 10 stitches for 3 inches, even though this pattern does not involve stockinette stitch anywhere. And then it also gives a gauge for the yarn over pattern, which is what is used on the sleeves. It does not give a gauge for this, which I find rather interesting. So 10 stitches for 3 inches on stockinette. So we're going to get my ruler to 3 inches here. So we are there for the stockinette stitch. I am really glad I did a practice, however, because as you can probably see, I was doing it wrong at first. And then I put it down and I picked it up and I read the instructions again and realized that what I was reading was not what I had been doing before. And yes, I was doing it wrong before, so this is correct. So really glad I did a practice. Last year, this is how far I got. I put it down when I reached the end of my ball of yarn with just 4 stitches left. I really didn't want to add another ball of yarn in the middle of a row, and I was too lazy in the moment to tink back and start my new ball at the beginning of that row. I put it down and then it got too warm and it never got picked up again. So I am picking it back up now. Let's see if I can get it done. My first order of business is going to be practice. I need to do another gauge swatch to make sure that I am still knitting this stitch pattern to the same gauge, because if I can't match it, I may have to redo this anyway. I do also worry that my cast on is a little too tight, although maybe I'll try and, I don't know, maybe I can fix it. I did this little swatch just to get some practice and see if my gauge is still the same. I'm feeling pretty confident in the pattern again, so that's nice. Hi, I'm in the middle of something. When he wants to biscuit, he wants to biscuit. Where was I? Yes, he's still here. They pretty much are the same. So at least my tension hasn't changed. I have been a little worried that the piece that I already knit that's almost done feels a little narrow. It feels a little tight. And I am making the large size. I'm kind of unsure what to do. I think, though, I'm gonna go ahead and start the other panel. Okay, actually, yes, I do know what to do. What I need to do is measure my first panel and just do the math. I need to see how wide this is and determine how wide I need it to be to go around with a reasonable amount of ease and calculate from that. That's what I need to do. I've got this laid out about as far stretched as I might want it. And I, once it's seamed up, could end up with 17 inches. That's not going to be big enough. This piece is almost done, but I might be redoing it. But I'm going to go ahead and just start the other one first. First, I'm going to calculate so that the other one can be a little wider. Which probably means I am going to have to do this because they do need to be the same. Sorry for the weird angle. I'm not getting my tripod right now and I've got you propped kind of awkwardly. But quick update on my sweater. I have finished the pattern portion of my new panel. So this part is done. And now comes the decision making of, do I really have to do color blocking? I had been thinking the best place to color block would be the shoulders, where it's that garter stitch. So now is when I have to make that decision. But I have started to feel like I will probably enjoy this sweater if it's all one solid color. So I've been trying to figure out if I really have to do the color blocking or if maybe I could have enough of the blue. There's not too much of the shoulders going on. However, this neckline is way too wide for me, so I'm probably gonna bring it into here. So what I think I might do is fix my other problem where I have knit myself into a corner. And I seem to do this every time I start a sweater or anything that needs two pieces that are the same and put it down. Inevitably, when I pick it up again, it's different. So as we discussed earlier, I decided to make this wider. Now, theoretically, I could put them together. I've got another sweater where the front and the back are different widths. But then also for the new panel, I learned how to do an alternating cast on and I am in love with it and don't think I ever want to do any other cast on ever again for any sweater project. And this is just a standard long tail cast on and it's going to be obnoxious. So I think I might be able to at least delay my decision by reknitting this. It won't help me get any closer to an answer as to whether or not I have to do the color blocking or if I can do it all in one solid color, but it will at least let me delay my decision. Since most of the spots were very small, I decided to just try cleaning them, and I am happy to say that I have been able to clean them out. So I've got this one last little one I can show you. It is, of course, a little tricky trying to wash a single thread of yarn, but let's see, I've got this cleaner. It's called Mean Green, and Sometimes it doesn't work at all, and other times it kind of works miracles. And actually, just like that, that little orange spot is already gone. Now, I do need to make sure that I wash this really well when I'm done to get all of the cleaner back out. I don't know if I would recommend doing it with wool or not, although this cleaner does say it is for laundry. But since this is very acrylic, probably pretty safe, and I didn't need to do a whole lot of scrubbing, I'm pretty pleased with that. So I've been thinking about this, about whether or not to do the color blocking, and I feel like I really would prefer all in blue. And after thinking about it, I think it's going to be enough. So I unraveled my original first panel and have this much left because there was a knot in the yarn, so it was a split anyway. And although I can't really judge exactly how much yarn I'm going to need, there are a lot more stitches in this than I will need on the shoulder. And this is folded in half, and you know, it's about big enough for what I'll need for the shoulder. Like, this probably covers the same amount of area that I would need when increasing this. And this only weighs 18 grams. Panel 1 from here to here was 10 grams. I've got panel 2. I've just finished the first ball, and it is exactly the same spot that I finished the first ball on this one. So I think we can safely say that this is going to be 10 grams here. So that's 20 grams out of 50. And then if we need 18, that's 20 more, and then like 3 rows of garter stitch before that. So yeah, I think we're good, and that will still leave an entire ball for each sleeve. I am at the point now where I need to split for the shoulders. I think what I need to do though is probably put it on a lifeline so I can hold it up to myself properly stretched out to see how wide it's really gonna need to be. This is the first panel done. I'm a little concerned that the neckline isn't deep enough, that the shoulders might not be deep enough. And it's making me think that even though I know I got gauge initially in this project, and I'm using the correct size needles, and I felt like I was stitching rather loosely, that it might not be, they might not be big enough. Although, again, I don't know how much this is going to stretch. Being acrylic, it's not going to like grow much, but that doesn't mean the stitches won't stretch out as they kind of lock into place a little bit better. So I'm a little concerned it's not going to fit. I bound off the edges because it says even 4 rows. No, it does say bind off all stitches. But then after the front panel, work same as back, weave shoulder seams. So at first I wasn't sure what this meant. I thought it just meant seaming up, sewing it together. But then I consulted this book, a complete book of knitting, crochet, and embroidery, and looked up weaving seams for knitting. And it does have weaving listed under knit edges, which is basically grafting. And I was thinking that if I graft the shoulder seams rather than bind off and then sew up, then I'll get a little bit more distance, because, you know, if I bind it off and then sew it up, I'm losing that little bit in the seam allowance. But if I graft it together, then I kind of get an extra row. So I think I'm going to undo the bind off edge so that I can seam the two together. I'm getting close. And it looks cute. It looks nice. This yarn is really very squishy. But I'm still concerned, even though I sized up, I'm still concerned about it being big enough. So that's also what has me concerned about having got the gauge right. Because it didn't give a gauge for the main body of the sweater. It gave a gauge for the garter stitch and for the sleeve pattern. No, it didn't even give for garter stitch. It gave gauge for stockinette, which isn't in it at all, and for the sleeve pattern. It occurs to me that although this particular graft you're supposed to do with right sides together, I probably could have done it wrong sides together to continue my garter stitch ridges here. So I'm gonna think a minute to decide if I want to redo this. On the other hand, if I had done a normal seam, it would appear this way anyway. All right, so I did go ahead and redo this graft. It actually makes a double ridge, so it's a little bit firmer, harder than the rest of the garter stitch, but I think I'm gonna like that better overall. I do need to go see if I can get this dirt out. This I didn't notice while I was knitting, and it's not an orange spot like the rest. It's just, I don't know, there was a spot of dirt on that bit of yarn, so I do need to go see if I can wash that out. Well, I can never do anything straightforward. I was kind of happy enough with this, but when I look at the reverse, come here, it looks so much better on that side. You can see the darker line where the seam is. Now I'm thinking, should I backtrack, do one more row so that I can do the same thing but have the ridge on the inside? But the problem is that I've already cut off all my ends, so I'd have to add new yarn for like a single row on each shoulder. I do kind of need to go back and redo it anyway because I missed a stitch there. So what should I do? It looks so much better. I don't know. I'm gonna sit and have a think. Either way, I think I need to undo that graft again, so I can go pick up that missed stitch because it's gonna bother me knowing that it's there. So yeah, if I hadn't cut my yarn, which I literally only just did as I was grafting this because the extra balls were all in my way. Upside, if I am going to undo this graft and add in an additional row of knitting requiring me to add in another strand of yarn, I can actually undo an additional row and redo this, so I can just cut the dirty strand out rather than wasting my time trying to clean it. Just wanted to show you the difference between this shoulder, where I added the row so I could do that graft on the other side, and this one where it's got the taller ridge. So definitely think I made the right call in doing that. So, but now I have to undo this and add another row. But yeah, it's also going to get it a little further away from my neck, even if it stretches out quite a bit more. I'm probably going to like that more. I know I haven't shown you yet, but tinking back with this yarn, undoing with this yarn is in fact a major pain because it does act like Velcro to itself. Well, I was going to measure for the sleeves, buddy. I know it's nice and cushy and very, very squishy, but you gotta get off. You gotta get off my squishy sweater, okay? Okay, well, I'll show you what I can. Happily, the dirty bit of yarn has been successfully undone. I have added the extra row so that I can continue, so that my seam could be done in a continuous garter stitch looking thing. No, just get off. The next step is to measure down for the sleeves, and depending on size, it's 9, 9.5, or 10 inches. Honestly, it would be a pretty cute vest if I just seamed it up right now. So I guess that's probably okay. That was like 9 inches, which is the smallest size. So I think I will just go with this row right here. Trying to show you the bottom of my sleeve in the mirror. It's not working very well. Okay, so this is the bottom of the pattern where it calls to start. There's one more knit row and then 3 inches of ribbing, just like this. That's gonna bug me not being able to like be long. So I'm trying to decide if I want to add just one more repeat or 2. Lo and behold, I lost a stitch. I dropped a stitch, in this drop stitch pattern where I'm not supposed to drop a stitch. So now to figure out if I have the capability of picking up stitches or not, because I really don't want to have to redo that many rows. But since it's got the drop stitch in there, I don't know that there's like going to be enough yarn for that. I finally managed to get back down to a spot where I have all of my stitches on the needle again. I unraveled an entire drop stitch row, and I think I'm going to have to unravel another one because down here is where the stitch was dropped. I picked it up and I went up a couple rows, but here in the drop stitch row, there just isn't enough yarn to make this stitch look even. And I could potentially like slide the yarn all the way down, but I don't see how I'm ever going to get these stitches to not look wonky. And with the way this yarn can be kind of Velcro, the way it clings to itself, it might be faster to just unravel some more. One dropped stitch threw off an entire night of knitting. Well, we've been having a bit of a storm and there is no power right now. So fortunately, you don't need power to knit. Just, you know, daylight still. So I can't film very much right now or I will use up all my battery. But I have finished knitting the second sleeve on my sweater. And now all that remains is seaming it up. I'm gonna try and lay it out on the bed so I can show you the whole thing before I seam it up. I don't know that it's gonna be very visible. I don't know how much light this camera will pick up, but hopefully I can finish this sweater before I lose daylight. Okay, nope, can't get far enough away. 0.5, there we go. There we go. It's actually kind of looking small here. But we'll see. I think it's gonna stretch a lot. So that's what she looks like. Now we're gonna seam it up. Well, I did indeed fail to finish seaming up my sweater before I lost daylight. And let me just say, these seams with the drop stitches are an absolute pain. Even when I can see them. I don't even know, this might be all awry. I have no idea what this is actually looking like right now. So I'm going excruciatingly slowly now, trying to finish seaming this up by camp light, by lantern. So hopefully I can still get it done tonight because it's still kind of early, but yeah, I can't see what I'm doing. Well, my second ever knit sweater is officially in the books. And although it's actually not the fit I wanted, it does fit. Now, in the postmortem, trying to figure out exactly where I went wrong, there are a couple of things that led to this issue. First of all, for some reason, my brain just could not find where the garment measurements were listed in this pattern. And so I didn't even think it was there, and I didn't find it until I was all done. And secondly, although yes, I put it down for a long time, and typically my attention does seem to change when I do that, my test piece of the main body pattern did match in gauge with the piece that I had done initially that did match my first gauge swatch. So I must not have been knitting in gauge that first time, even though my gauge swatch was accurate. And I think part of my downfall is that there was no gauge given for the main body pattern, so I had nothing to check against, especially since I couldn't find those garment measurements. And so somehow, even though I was knitting the large size plus an additional 6 stitches, my final garment measurement is actually about the same as what is given for the small in this pattern. And I think for it to be that far out of gauge, the only way I could have made it the correct size would have been to go all the way up to a size 15 needle. I do think that might have made the stitches a little bigger than I would have liked, so I probably would have preferred to just add more stitches. But again, even though it's not the size I had hoped, I do still think it looks pretty good. And because I knit it essentially to the small size, I have more than a full ball of this blue Unger Fluffy left. So I'm gonna be adding a stash busting project with this yarn. Probably a vest, because it did look pretty cute as a vest before I put these sleeves on. If I had caught the issue before I added the sleeves, I probably would have re-knit the entire body, but it's done now, so I'm just going to live with it. I don't think I'm going to make this pattern again because there are so many others that I want to get to, but it was simple enough, and now that I've done it once, I think it could go much faster. And I don't know, maybe I'll try it again someday. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me on this knitting journey. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time. Bye.